Namaste. Welcome back to the Force Niyama podcast, a place where most senior direct disciples of Guruji BKS Iyengar reflect on their journey of studying and teaching yoga. This is the second part of a conversation with Arti Mehta, a senior student and teacher of Iyengar Yoga from Mumbai. For over 20 years, Arti has been working with kids with special needs and helping them to cope with their conditions through the practice of yoga and have a better quality of life. In this episode, Arti reflects on her challenges and learnings from guiding children with special needs. She shares that acceptance is the starting point for a change. Once a teacher can connect with a child, a positive and fundamental shift is bound to happen. I hope you'll enjoy listening to this interview. If you have a specific question you'd like to ask a senior teacher, feel free to share your question with me, and I'll do my best to get it answered.
The other thing, if I'm talking about the mannerisms, like there was this kid who was coming to the class and he used to be prone to seizures and very bad seizures. So he used to be like completely drained off, and even when he got it, and you're scared that if he falls any which way, even the parent, I can understand, 3 times a day is not a joke, and over the years, then there was an improvement. So I realized that in this particular center, they've put up the ropes also, because since I'm there for a long time, so rope Sirshasan is something, initially they're very scared, it's difficult for them to get in, so you have your own ways, but finally once they're there is something which is affecting them where they are able to calm down. And why I say that is, after that I was reading some book on a parent with a child with autism, and then she said there's always an inherent strain and stress in their nerves. And that's why when they fly also it's a big thing, and many times the passengers are disturbed and those things, because they could be just opening out their arms, screaming, going around, and you will think it's not a well-behaved kid. But actually it is so much of strain in their nerves that's a natural thing which relaxes them when that starts to spread out, or when they scream. So it's something that's boiling, what do you do? So when I read that, I'm putting 2 and 2 together. That might be in rope Sirshasan what happens because of the space that's created in the region of the abdomen and those kind of things. They must be feeling settled down, quietened down. The strain must be released, because we know there's the direct connection of the gut and the brain. Yeah. So basically, moment that is taken care of, I think the pressure or the nervine tension might be releasing. So now I think I can put 2 and 2 together, because otherwise there was nothing that could be explained. I know this is doing and they're doing fine. So in that manner, I will say whether I was fortunate enough to not be studying this, because otherwise I would have had my own limitations or biases that, okay, a person has got this thing, so it's okay if they can do this. But because I was not trained, it was like, why a person cannot do it? So you're going to try different ways to see that they're able to do it. So in that manner, now in the hindsight, I think I was fortunate enough to not be trained. Otherwise, I would have had my own thing that it's okay, like I know, okay, you have injured yourself, it's okay, she will not be able to do it, don't do it. But that couldn't happen, because I was like, why it's not happening? Then the fear that they have got, and even even if you're talking of the parents or the people at home, it's different for me to say, because I'm dealing with them, say for 2 hours, 3 hours in a week or whatever it is. But if you're there with them for 24 hours, it can be a difficult situation. And the behavior, how it is, where it changes. The support system is very different, because sometimes the acceptance is not there. Like I know one of the child, both the parents are doctors. So even if the parents don't expect whatever it is, but there would be the grandparents who feel that, okay, the grandchild can become a doctor. Now those expectations, definitely they cannot be met, because it's a different area which he can be good in. But those kind of things which come up, and then there's a different kind of a pressure which comes across. So that acceptance, once it's there, then it's easier to work on.
So based on your experience, what would be your guidance to Iyengar Yoga teachers?
One thing I can say is, I won't say you have to be patient, but patience is developed. There is no way, because you cannot be screaming, you cannot be hitting, and that is not going to work also. So basically, I think there's lots of patience which is involved, tolerance which is there, observational skills, because some person you're saying is not able to, because everyone has got a different expertise, let me put it that way, even in children. And if they can come across, then you pick up on that, and then your instructions can go around like that, and not with whatever I have pre-decided. So I will say purely first is observation. I remember when I had been somewhere else, I was specially called because they wanted to see how these children, and they asked me for a sequence. And the word sequence just puts me off, because it's not the sequence, it's how, which is very, very important. And it's not going to be the same for everyone. It will differ. So at that point of time, so for 6 months, I think I said, no sequence, because I myself don't have a sequence. It's just, you see some things, and then from there, the next one comes second, and then it builds up accordingly. So at that point of time, then they said, okay, can you come and, just see. So they said, okay, shall we send them for yoga? I said, no. They're new to me, completely new, a different state, not in Bombay. I said, I'll come, I'll just have a look of what they are doing in their regular environment. Could be they're doing art, could be they are doing something else. I'll just watch what they're doing in the environment. So purely first, even I know that certain things, what they're picking up on. And that can be my clue card for them. And that's how then I got them to do certain things, and then some other teacher is continuing, and it's going on well. So it's purely, I think, once you observe and something that you pick up on, and then you can add on to this and come with that. The other thing, of course, the focusing, as I said, what Guruji spoke about the eyes, which are directly connected to the brain and how it goes about, is anything that they do. And even in our regular classes, we know at that point of time, when people used to say, because even for these children, there were many times when initially, when they didn't know me, they said, what if they keep on looking at a candle flame? So that would help their attention. And I said no, because I remember Guruji saying that if you're looking at that, the flame also moves, so moment that goes, that means their attention will go. So it's not that something external is required. Your own hand, look at your own fingers. Are they stretching, not stretching? Where are they reaching? Reach your fingers there. That's how you're connecting. That is also focus. From there you build up the attention span. So, those kind of things which could be a general thing, which we don't, I won't say we don't, but sometimes you think, okay, this is a general instruction. But moment you are connecting that, those connections will be helping you in each thing that you're doing to develop. The sequencing, the patterns, there are lots of patterns which everyone goes through. So those are the patterns which you pick up. Like one child, I knew for him, anything to do with cars, he will. So then you start instructing, okay, there's a car, that's a wheel of the car, so can we do chakras? And so something what they can connect to. So that is what it would be. And yes, like, for me, I will say, earlier when we used to teach children, it used to be all fun movement, which is bound to be there at least from the age of, say, 7 to 10, 11, 12. Then a little bit of seriousness sets in. So at that point on, it was just quick movements, and they used to enjoy it. Now, when I first time went to a particular school, because now I'm associated with 2-3 other schools with this thing, one has closed down. So for me, teaching children, so it all started off like that, quick movements. And then I'm seeing they are all over. But that time I didn't know what it meant. So the quick movements were the ones who were already hyperactive became more and more energized. So it was a thorough mess. So that time you know that it's a slowing down. It's generally for children, you never take forward bends for them to rest, or it's very different. That is not generally taken for children. Even if you take forward bends, it's quickly from, say, Halasana to Paschimottanasana, or one leg in whichever, the Paschimottanasana. But it's quick, it's never this. So that was the first thing that I realized, okay, it cannot be all children are not same. So those things kind of have to be implemented as you see things. We should be accordingly changing and checking out if it's working, not for the sake of changing, because there are times, okay, let's do something different. So something different is not going to work just because it's there in my head. I want them to do something different. So it has to be in association with whatever has been done and what they've understood. And then I try it out 2, 3, 4 times, and then you're having that effect, then okay, this is working. Then that statement can be made. But one time we cannot make that statement, because might be that particular day they had not taken the medication. So there are many of the other factors which are involved.
No, it's so interesting. Like, you have to come with an open mind without any
completely open
scenario or any like.
No, that I agree. Completely open, because it's not necessary that what I want to impart today I will be able to. So many times you don't even go pre-decided in that sense. Overall, once you know the children, you have an idea. But at that point of time, if they're not up to it, one would have to change. Like generally you would not have heard of children be put up on bolsters and lie down in Setubandha Sarvangasana. Normally it's the older people. But now I've got bolsters for some of these children, because many of them have got certain issues with the breathing, the anxiety and all that. So those are the things which help them. Then at that point of time I cannot continue, because I know for children you have to take these things, but it's not going to work for these children, because at that point of time the state is not there of the regular child, which you would generally be teaching.
So it's
like for any other class or everywhere, you have to go with openness. And Guruji so many times has been speaking about that also, about the memory. I remember when we were in Russia, that was the only time, or first time when I went with Guruji, only time. And then there was something which he had taught in the morning, and then the next day another group was going to come. So we were supposed to take that and go. So few of us. And at that point of time, the previous night, he called us to his room and he said, okay, you are going to teach this, you are going to teach this. Whoever the different teachers were assigned a particular asana, and just, what did you do? How do you do it? And he had told, this is how it goes, and which was fine. And I remember when my turn came, I was supposed to be doing Parshvottanasana. I went off, connected to whatever Guruji said, the same thing, I was. And Guruji said, what are you doing? I just kept quiet, of course, like there's nothing. And then I'm wondering, I didn't have the thing to ask him, and of course he knows what he's saying, he was right there present. But then I understood what he meant by connect, because for me what happened is that he had made me do, extending my arms up, move forward, go down, properly had taken it. I had practiced that, what he had said, and the same thing, and I continued the same way. But that was again my memory to what are the 4 points which he had given that I did. So the people were following, some of them were following, not following. For me, it was more like Guruji has told me this, it's there in the class, so many 800, 900 students were there, the other teachers were there, this is what he has said and this is what I have to do. So I went with that attitude of mine, let me put it that way, and that was the moment he said that, what is it that you are doing, I just kept. So he said, what are they doing? So basically, it's a connect which is important. And for me at that point of time, Guruji has said this, you have put that in your head and you're just passing it on. But that passing, you won't be able to pass it on because you are not able to connect. So everything starts with connecting. Might be I might give 2 points. But if you're able to connect, then from there you can move. And same thing with these children. So that once you are connected with them, then it moves. And many times I have a feeling that even if they want to say something, the people who have got no other issues, just some learning problems and some big small issues, not major social or those kind of things, then also I think they are not given a chance, so we don't hear them because they are children. So it's understood, let them say what they want, but you are going to do what. And that was never the case with me. So if somebody is saying, unless, like, of course by now even you are, you have got that thing in you that, okay, are they just trying to waste time? Are they trying to attract attention? So by that time now I can distinguish the two. But otherwise I'll always give them a chance if they've got something to share, to say. Then when it goes overboard, how to quietly tell them, okay, this is not what we have to discuss. So not that everything that they say is to be taken, but sometimes because they might be saying what they're feeling. There's this one child who's there, suddenly he says, anything I do, I feel a blood rush. Even not in the yoga class, anywhere. And then I realized that he is facing lots of issues at home, lots of psychological problems, between the parents, whatever it is. So all those things also have to be taken into consideration about the emotional connect, the psychological connect, the physiology, of course. The other thing what happens is, people who are physically handicapped, in a way, it's easier for the others because they can see something which is different. So you are going to be behaving also okay. Either you'll ignore or you will be okay, little careful or more helpful. The problem is for the ones who look completely okay, but having lots of behavioral issues, mental issues, psychological, so much of trauma which is there, but which is not seen because that would come in phases. And then for any person to even, kind of, I won't say to acknowledge, but to take them as they are, it's very difficult. Like, but natural, if you're walking on the road and somebody just kind of pushes you or something, you're going to lose it. But moment you know that it is an issue, you might be behaving a little differently. So those kind of things which are there, so I feel many times these are much difficult for an outsider who is not aware of any of the things. It's very difficult because it's very easy to blame that, okay, this is a child who has not been raised correctly, who is a spoiled brat. We give all those tags, but it's not that. When you go deeper into it, you realize that there are so many things which are involved, that it's not that. But yes, definitely with regular things, that's why we have got something like early intervention, that if you start off at least there will be a better quality of life, and many of them are able to get through to it also. Not all things which are there, at least you can have your quality of life. Some can be independent, some cannot be, because if you're talking about autism, it's a spectrum. And now because earlier you had got separate things like pervasive, development disorder, this disorder. Now all that comes under the umbrella of autism. So it could be one which is this and this, you cannot be comparing. And then moment you read up things, you see things, then what I'm amazed, and I was never in any doubt because I've not seen anything else but Guruji and his system. But what he used to talk about 20, 30, 40 years ago, now there are all these neuroscientists and others talking about what he was talking about 40 years ago. Might be the language must be different. But that's what they're talking about now, and everyone is talking about these connections. And the holistic system as, HOLISTIC along with the whole complete, which earlier it was always compartmentalized. So I think that made a big difference about one as a human being, the complete system.
If you could share any guidance to parents who are seeking to find some method that would help their kids to deal with this
So one,
issues.
It's easy to say because I don't have any of that kind of a thing. It is difficult, but once you accept it, that okay, this is it. I remember the first time when I had gone to the school, and for a few days when I used to go, I used to feel a little disturbed that these 3 kids are not doing anything. I'm not able to get them to do. So it was more of a question mark on myself. Because you cannot always blame anyone. If I'm teaching and if I'm not able to get through to it, I'm responsible for it. It's not the student. They are coming to me because they don't know. So I used to feel very disheartened in the sense because you were used to seeing Guruji, you are used to in the class that everyone is looked and to whatever, but their eyes go everywhere and you know what's happening. But if you're not able to reach to those 3 people regularly, because they were the ones who were coming on wheelchair at that time. Now we don't have many because the polio cases have, almost not there. So at that point of time, I remember coming home and telling Rajvi, I said, I just don't know these 3 kids, I'm just not able to do anything. I used to come completely dissatisfied with. So she was the one, she said, no, I agree. But then out of those 40 children, if you were able to touch 37 of them, that means at least you're on the right track. So after that, I won't say I accepted I can't get these 3 to do, but then I started working different towards it. But I said, okay, there's a larger picture of 37. If I get stuck to those 3, then I myself am messed up and not confident to what I'm doing, and it's just going to be, then it starts off, okay, these people can do this, so from there you go ahead. These you cannot do, I get them to do a little more, and that's where the combining took place. So that is one thing, accepting, and sometimes it might be very slow. You might be able to notice something, you might not be able to notice anything. And then it's surprising that one day suddenly it's like, boom, oh, this is what's happening. He started to sleep well. Others sleeping are an issue many, many times. So he's having a sound sleep. He's able to eat, chew and eat, not gulp down. He's ready to eat certain other things. He's able to, use their hands for writing. He's able to button up. He's able to look into someone's eyes depending on each one, whatever it is there.
That's a huge shift.
Yeah, so that's a big thing, he's able to, and some of them, when you say they're non-verbal, they're not able to speak, it's not completely not able to speak, because there are times you can hear them saying, ah, or something like that. So you cannot say they're not able to speak, but then that tuning training, so that I can catch off, if I can hear that sound of ah, that means there's something which is there. So from there, might be lots of repetitions are required of I, my, whatever it is, lots of repetitions. But then once they get that clue, it can happen. It's patience, but not out of frustration. What I feel that, like you say, if it is a clean white wall and if there's a black dot, you can see the black dot, you can see that entire clean white wall. And you should be able to see both, because if that in the blackboard, if it's a white dot and if you're able to spot that white dot, that could be one positive beginning to something also. Or if you're able to see the other thing. So, somewhere where we just need to change. And one thing is, please don't compare. Because there's always going to be there, even in the normal case, even like for example, if I am there and if somebody else is there, if that comparison is going to be there, definitely there is always going to be something lacking, something more, and it's just going to mess up. And I feel at that point of time, you are in a confused state. The clarity is not there in you, but natural with everything you are there. And when the clarity is not there in you, and when you're in that confused state, it makes a big difference that who is the one who's next to you, talking to you and guiding you. Whether you are able to, continue, move up with that and continue with that, or it's completely gone. And one more thing, I don't say academics is not important. It is. But depending as to what you are going to get from that, if a child is not able to do a particular subject. See, each one of us has got, for me, math, I was never an expert in math at all. Okay, basic, I would know 1 + 1 and whatever it is. But if you ask me about anything, I was not meant for that. Now it's easy for me to say, but that time there was a struggle. So there would be many other things which you might be having something, if you're able to notice. Nobody comes with a zero thing in them. One thing is always going to be there which is different from somebody else's got, and which is the one which can, make them reach heights or whatever it is. It's just that now things are opening out, changing a lot over here also, even the educational system and all that. But earlier, if I was talking about when I was in school and all that, there were certain things which was in this stack, and that's what you're supposed to do. So if you're not able to do that, if you're good in art, it means what can you pursue in art? It's zero. But moment that artistic thing, if you've already got, and if that's cultivated, there are many other things which open out in your brain. Like for me, if somebody is doing art or something, creativity, and if I'm not having that, I'll be like, wow, this person is doing this. But somebody who is able to do Sirshasan, I'm not going to say wow, because it's something that you are doing it. So there's always going to be that wow factor for something which you don't have and somebody else has got, which can raise you up, which can put you down. So I feel even the smallest of thing, that can be recognized and go ahead. Like we've got in our center something like pottery. So you start off with mud, even that's very, very recuperative, and it helps. And some child is very good at making things and all that, but the parent feels, what is he going to do from pottery? It's not that. The things which are going to be developed from there, whether you want to become a potter or no, that's up to you. But there are many other things which are there, but when you look down upon certain things and look high on, and those standards are created by us in our own heads or the society around us. But finally, when it comes to when you have to deal with it, nobody comes to help you with that. They might help out in different ways, a little bit, might be, but finally you have to deal with it, whether it's a child, whether it's a parent. So it's purely, even if you see one spark, which is different, if he or she likes it, just go ahead with that. There are many other openings which will come up. And then you might be having some expert who can, guide you through, okay, you can go about like this, and they'll be able to do it. And we have seen children who have come up in a great way. But like I said, we need to know that where we can push them, where we cannot. I remember this, there was a cartoon. There was a tree, and then this elephant is trying to climb the tree, because that was the competition which he was asked to, and which he was never able to climb. And then there was a monkey which was asked to climb the tree. So it depends that when you're testing who and what you're testing on. So it's purely with that. You cannot have the same thing, same test for everyone. It has to be depending on what you want to test. So if you're asking somebody like an elephant to climb up the tree and sit there on the branch like a bird, he's not meant for that. But does that mean that
he's...
So it's completely like that. It's an individual, and go about with that.
So can you speak a little of some of these cases that you've mentioned, that successful cases of kids who were doing Iyengar Yoga, because you started so many years ago, so I'm sure most of those kids there.
Yeah, so many adults. Of the children, I didn't realize, because if there's this child who's very, very naughty in the sense, who would not listen to any of the teachers and nothing at all, and all over, very hyper and everywhere, nowhere being paying attention. So many times what they thought is yoga is like a punishment. Some people enjoy it, so they want to go. Some people, because they want to miss out on a particular class which is difficult for them, and they want to go. So there are going to be all kinds. You don't expect all of them to like it. And this child, I took it as a challenge that I'm going to ask him to be there for one of the demonstrations. And he's like, all over, will I be able to do it? I said, you are going to do it, because you know where to enforce when you can't, because he didn't have any other issues where I had to pay attention to. So I said, no, you are going to do it. And then he did all the hand balancings, whether it's Ashtavakrasan, Bakasan and all those. And those are challenging things. And the moment you do that, there is a channelization of energy, I think, is taking place, or whatever it is, but there was a difference. And of course, the people who are observing, if they're yoga practitioners, they know what they're doing. The others also know that it's something different where everyone is not going to be able to do it. So I never realized, and he was out of the school, everything's fine, whichever, he was studying in a regular college. And then later on, after 4 years or 5 years, they were asked to write or somebody else to write on behalf of them something that they would as an article for the school magazine. And it was so surprising because it would have not even struck me, and he was the one who put up, like annual day, we've got lots of things happening. Then he's saying the annual day program, the yoga demonstration is always the highlight, we always get a standing ovation, and it was a big change which made. Now for me, there was no contact with that kid. But you know, when it comes through somebody else and then somebody passed on the thing for me to read, so I realized. And for many of them, I think their attention span, focus, it definitely would be helping them for that. So after that, even there are some who have gone into something like interior designing, and they're doing very well in that. And they want to, you know, pursue that further. Then there was this girl, I think she was just playing carom or something, and when things come up from them, so when I asked them to do a particular pose, and then they were there, then afterwards on her own she's saying, you know what, I can play carom better. I won that game or something like that. So somewhere where they could connect. Then there was this bright child, so when I get them to do Adho Mukha Vrikshasana, of course I hold them from behind because you don't want them to fall and injure. And then they have a habit of holding their breath, and anyone, because of fear or whatever it is. So I said, count, somebody else will start counting. I said, no, I want them to count. So then this bright child, because then you realize the brightness which is there, some other faculties are working. He came down, Miss, I know why you are asking us to count. I said, why, what happened? So that we breathe. So then he knew that he used to come with read this thing and then. So sometimes, which I don't say we take it for granted, but we don't even pay attention to that breath as children and all that, but they must be themselves noticing that, okay, when I'm counting, I'm breathing, which otherwise you don't talk to them about breath. Then there were times when some of the children, they do something, they feel the difference, and then they go and teach their parent. And the parent learns from them, and the parent are like, we never realized that a child was doing something. It's not easy, it's difficult. You know, certain challenging things which are there. So if you ask me, there are so many. I mean, this is now suddenly to pinpoint, it's going to be a little, but
yeah. One of the things that naturally you were privileged with is that you were learning directly from Guruji. Based on this privilege that you had of studying with Guruji and Gitaji and Iyengar family for so many years, what would be the things that you would like to highlight? Because like for my generation and for generation further, we did not have this privilege of studying with them, and then the distance from the master would even increase. So what is it that you would like to pass on to newer, younger generations of Iyengar students and teachers?
So of course, there's only one Guruji, so I mean, this is nothing in that sense. But with him, about even the human aspect of him, like in the class, nobody could do anything. Moment he's there, that aura was there. But at the same time, outside of the class, because when he used to be coming to Bombay, we used to be in the classes, and there used to be many of the senior students used to invite him out or taking him to some clubs or, you know, for food or homes. And he was such a different person. Completely, you know, talking. I remember the time when it was just the year when Guruji passed away. Before that, Abhijata's daughter's the first birthday. And he saw to it that everyone who had come has finished eating. Then he sat to eat at that particular age. Then when we were visiting Mysore for his 90th birthday, and after that when we were there, it was at 11 o'clock at night. And he had his meal at then. Why I'm pointing this out is because there are times even, say some other teachers who are there or students or, so they would say, you know, no, late nights not for yoga. No, definitely not. I mean, this is all of us, you need to sleep, you wake up early, you need those things. But with Guruji, it was as per the situation. It's not that every day who would be eating at 11 and 12 o'clock or whatever it is. But when you are out and there are certain things to be done, that is what it is, which was something that we really need to inculcate, that things don't go around the way you want it to. So, you know, those kind of things that this was there. Then somewhere where we were, when we were in Russia, I remember, he said, you all eat whatever is there. He didn't eat much, and he said, I'll do my shavasana for that half an hour so I'm completely recovered. So, you know, many of those things. So if I'm not doing, or I don't want to, I'm not stopping anyone. The day when we had gone, he said, you all have never come to Russia, you're coming for the first time. and we had gone a day earlier. So they will take you all around, you all go and have a good time and wear proper clothes, you know, and that kind of a thing. So you go, you have a look at it. Once you're in the class, you whatever it is. So there was not the seriousness, yes, in the class of the subject, that you cannot mess around with that, 100% no. But outside of it, it's completely different and open to anything and everything. So that was one thing. I remember when you know, people wanted him to sign the books like an autograph. All of us, literally, we kind of made like, you know, like that human chain, so that people don't, nobody is going to fall on purpose because of so many people around, all of them want to meet him. So that time you realize what it meant, like a rock star, because like for us, Guruji, since he used to come to Bombay, you are there in Pune, he's over there, he's here. Since Guruji, you know he's at a level, but it's different, you know, because you never talk to him in that manner. And he was always open to everything. That was one thing, you know. So even in the library when he's sitting, and if you've got anything, at that time I thought, okay, Guruji want to make some t-shirt or something like that. So somebody had designed it, I'd gone to show him, he said nice. And then he said there was this Trikonasana t-shirt which is there, which is from his book Marking. So he was the one, and Birju was there that time. So Guruji said, yes, I can give you a quote for also, take this book, do like this, mark it. So he was open to anything and everything. There was never a no. I remember that Yoga Patha, the small Yoga Sutras which is meant for children, which came out. And that time my nephew was visiting from US, and Guruji just gave, he said, give him to read. So I was wondering whether what he's going to read, like, you know. And then he's saying, yes, did he understand? What is it you didn't understand? So, and anytime, like I used to do lots of transcriptions of Guruji's works. And anything you have got, any doubt, you can just go and ask him anytime. And he would want to know what you have not understood or what is not clear. And then he would go and put it in a language which is still clearer. So he knew what he was talking, but if it's not reaching the people we wanted to reach, then he would go on. So his was reading, rereading. So if you pick up any of Guruji's books or any of Guruji's articles, it's so clear. And second time you open that same, you will get some other meaning depending on what you have done that particular day. And he was always there into sharing things. It was never keeping anything for himself. Whether it was the material thing, or whether, of course, it's his knowledge and his teaching, because when Guruji used to be there, we used to be in Pune frequently, oftentimes, in the afternoon library. So he'd be sitting at his table, finishing his work. And Rajvi used to say, especially with Yoga Rahasya and many other things, he said, with Guruji, you have to be so careful, because sometimes, you know, anything you give him, he's going to finish it only and get up. So sometimes you would feel that, you know, let Guruji rest. So if you don't give it, you know, that way it is better. Or many times he's so quick that before this is done, there's so many other things which are happening. So, you know, always in sharing, okay, today morning, this is what I did, this is what I understood. Come on, let's try that, do that Trikonasana over there, in that space, in that library, you've not gone to the institute. But, you know, it was always so much into sharing, opening with everything, everyone. Gita ji also, I remember, you know, many times people feel, okay, Gita ji means she had a particular way, it has to go like this. But it's not that, because if she knows that you are capable of doing certain things, she is not going to ask you to go this regimentally. But if there are times when you know that this person is not completely aware of it, then there would be a kind of regimentation, I don't know if that's the right word that I'm using, that yes, so that you're not doing any harm to anyone else and yourself. So depending on what is there, because I remember one of the therapy classes which I had gone to Pune. So when we went there, they asked us, you can just come and observe and help. And I always, personally, I'm not comfortable, because I'm just going one off day. What am I going to touch? And I'm not an expert to, you know, do anything. So I would always try to stay back and just watch, because I feel it's an interference, because I don't know what's happening over there. So then she was there, and somebody was doing some Sarvangasana or something, and she said, help. So I was standing. So she's saying, you have never seen Guruji helping in Mumbai? I said, yes, so do it that way. So then I put my toes against the shoulders and move this. So that is what it is. So she didn't say, do this, do this. She's like, what did Guruji do? You didn't, you know, it was something like that. So then I realized it's not that others people will say, Gita ji will say, so you have to do it like she says, like this, but it's not that. If she knows that you have picked up whatever has to be done, then it doesn't matter whether I use my left hand or right hand or how I adjust, as long as the adjustment is done correctly. But because you don't know how to adjust or how to manipulate, then you will be saying, okay, use this finger, move like this, move like this, move like this, and 10 instructions for you so that you don't mess up with somebody else or with yourself. So many times I think we have to be careful when we make a blatant statement, because that is what I have understood and I may be saying, but if you don't know about her, you will listen to that particular statement. So I think whenever we open our mouth also, we have to be a little careful when we just put in, you have to say, in my opinion, it is this, it makes sense. Otherwise, it's just taken as a statement.
What do you think you've learned from him and from Gita-ji on what makes a good student and what makes a good teacher? Is being a good student, a precondition for a good teacher?
Not necessarily. Yes, you will have to be a good student, no doubt about it. You will have to be a student to be a teacher and continue being a student to be a teacher. But depending what you're looking at. So sometimes, there are times people will say, oh, this person is doing so well, the asanas are done perfectly. So you can ask them to become a teacher, but not necessarily. That just because you are able to perform well, you can become a good teacher. It's not necessary, but you have to be a good student.
So what is necessary in your opinion?
For a teacher, first thing is observation, some way to communicate, not necessarily verbally, as I said, because depending whom you are teaching, so there has to be where you are able to reach out to that person. There has to be an emotional connect, because I should be able to reach out to you. If I'm not able to, and if there's already a kind of a partition between you and me as a student and a teacher, then I have to see through some other way where I can break that partition. That is very important. At the same time, that respect is there of a teacher and a student, even if you're best of friends. Outside of it, might be it's one of my friends only who must be attending my class, and if at that point of time, if I'm a teacher, there has to be that respect, which I can say it cannot be commanded, but the way you go about with it, that it is gained. So if I being a teacher over here in the class, but if I'm attending some other teacher's class, I'm a student over there. So I cannot become a teacher at that point of time. That is also very important, because sometimes if I'm teaching all the classes, say 6 classes a week, or might be more than that, and on the 7th day if I'm attending with a particular teacher, then I'm a student. I cannot become a teacher in that particular class in my behavior. That is very important. How to change roles and shift roles. Compassion, not, oh, I feel bad, sorry, with no words, but purely to reach through. And this again I will tell with Guruji, because there were some people who would have not been in the class studying, but say you're sitting on the steps and just observing. So as an observer, I can be passing many comments if I'm not inside of you of what you're doing. It's different. So at that point of time, people used to feel, oh, Guruji, he just slaps a person, he talks loudly, he screams, those kind of things which came. But the person who was touched, so for that matter, for example, if my back is not working and the tap which he gave on the back opened out all the cells and my back started working. So I know what that meant, but for that person it would be, he slapped. So that's what the compassion was for the back. So Guruji also said that, when he was talking about Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upeksha, he said if there is a person who is, say, an addict who is coming, he's saying, I'm not against that person, I'm against the addiction. So I have to be cruel to the addiction and compassionate to that person. But for you and me, it would be the same person. So we have got our things where we'll draw vices, okay, this person is like this only. So no, it was towards the addiction that I am saying, not to the person. That is what compassion meant. The cruelty where it came, where it has to come, so that that thing is moved out. Then of course, Guruji said that whatever you're teaching, you should have experience first before teaching that. So you cannot just pick up, as I mentioned earlier, from somewhere and start teaching. You can, of course, continue reading. For me, I like opening any of Guruji's books and reading it, and there are so many things that you get out of it. But it's not just the catching on words. So sometimes, say, even for his classes, which I would have transcribed, or even Gitaji's pranayam class, when you're transcribing, even when after that, when you're reading it, you can actually start feeling what is happening.
There are students who go to the classes regularly, practice with the teacher, but they're not practicing by themselves. There is no such thing as a self-practice yet, even though maybe the person is genuinely willing to build it, but they're struggling. So what would be your guidance for people who are struggling with finding the momentum for the self-practice for asana and pranayama?
So what I would say is, you can just pick up Guruji's light on pranayam. any one thing you can read and just try to do that. Even if you read Guruji's articles, he himself said that for pranayam it was a big struggle for him. And then it was like, if at that point of time you find that you are not getting it and you're really trying hard, then that's a time that means that grace is not on you that particular day. Leave it and restart, but don't give up. So for me, what worked, because as in pranayam as such wouldn't be, so picking up any of the books, not necessarily Light on Pranayam, of course, it's a classic, or Guruji's articles which are there. And I said, as you are reading it, when you say, you yourself can start feeling that. So if he's talking about the, like my words are his, atmospheric air outside, and then when it's entering into you. So even how we started off at different levels. So he had said, I remember that there is a avenue which is already existing. So is it entering through that avenue, of whether it's going through the windpipe to the bronchial tubes. So like it starts off at that level also. Very, if you can say, where you can really sense what it is. There are the avenues which is existing. Then from there, what he started off is about when you're talking about the divine outside and your individual which is inside. And when that merger takes place, so then, because many times when you talk about inhalation and exhalation, you're just watching what's happening inside, just something that's moving. But then he said, because I remember in one particular class, he said that he took a glass of water and there was empty glass which looked empty to us and which was with water. And he said, what is there? And he emptied that glass. Now what is there? So there was air inside. So it can never be empty. So what he said is just like the air created room for the water to enter in. In the same manner, he said, it is the self which is inside, which is creating room for the breath to enter in, the prana. So, like those kind of things. Then many other things are the technicalities of when you are there, how is the skin. So when you are sitting, and then for that matter, if that inhalation has to take place, the skin which is there, which has to be there over here, cannot be hitting the cloth at the back. How that remains. So those are the technical things. And even one or two, if you start to get that and it works. I remember Geeta ji one day specifically opened the bottom ribs and literally open the bottom ribs and see what happens. So then it's not coming from the head or mentally in that sense, but things stand. And one thing once you start to get, then you continue trying that and then some other things open out. So I feel it's best to refer to any of the books or the classes which are there, Guruji's. And then like I said, even when you're doing it, reading it, it's like it's a part of you which is taking place. It's not like reading it out, but you are learning it, you're imbibing it. I won't say learning, but it imbibes. It comes into you as though it's completely directing. And then that internalization and then the inner voice starts to talk to you. So what he talked about, the difference between, the intuition which is there is like a tutor within, the intuitiveness which comes in. So many times the tutors are there within, but are we able to connect? So all this what they have done, it leads to that. And even for asana, so like you are saying, might be you're attending classes, might be with the same teachers, different teacher, but after some time what happens, you also get so used to that particular thing that also can kind of become that's the only thing. So like for the self-practice that you're saying, so whatever you're learning from anyone, what you're doing in the class, even the same thing you try to do at home, it's going to be very different. Even if it's the same teacher you're attending with, same instructions, you try to instruct yourself at home, it's going to be very different. But start off, if you have felt in two particular classes, this is two particular asanas in a class, that particular day you felt, no, I just want to try this at home. Just go ahead and try it. And from there, initially you might start instructing the instructions which you had got in the class. But after a while, when you're just there, sometimes you decide, even if it's forceful, that no, whatever happens, I am going to be there. Just be there, and suddenly certain things start to open out. That becomes your learning. So it's not what you have in that sense learned from a class, but your own learning which starts to take place because you start to observe something else which starts to happen apart from whatever is happening. So like you have already got those, the bold letters, and there are those minute letters of the statutory warning, which has to be big for people to read, but that's always tiny. So those are the tiny things which just come up, which you are able to read. Because many people have a habit of reading only, like for me generally big prints, it's understood. So I won't bother to read, even talk about it. But my eyes always go on the small prints which are a little difficult to read. So then, you start to catch those kind of things. So whatever it is, sometimes if you can't do anything at all, If you want to do Sarvangasana, even with proper support, just start off with that. Even if you go off to sleep, it's okay. Start. Then somewhere you don't know, something start, okay, I'll do this, I'll do that. Not from the head, but from inside only it'll start to guide you.
What you feel like. Yes. As you know, this project is called the Force Niyama, which is a direct reference to Patanjali Yoga Sutras, the Svadhyaya. What does Svadhyaya mean to you, and how important it is in your progress?
So Swa means yourself, mind, whatever we call it. Yes. So it's all to do with Svadhyaya. So it's all, again, you know, whatever is there around you, outside of you, if I'm looking from that point of view, it's still centered with you and the way it is going to be. So the situations which are outside of you cannot change, we cannot change it, that cannot change. But how you are able to cope with it. And that is what I think the practice, the way Guruji's system is, gets us to, that you might not realize it, but when you are facing certain things in life and when you see the others who are into it and how, you know, I will say it's just like you have been blessed, or the grace that is there, that you cannot say you are doing it or you're coping with it, but something which is there which is just allowing you to continue things. So for me it's all to do, like when you're saying self-practice, it's not self as in myself as an individual, but your deep self in there, and it just...
always has to be.
So things around you, with you, whatever it is, and you are a part of all of that, and at the same time you can be off. Like for Guruji, again, if we come back to that, he was the one, if you meet him, if you give him anything, it's like, you know, all for you, and you know, you can see that. And moment you are out, it's out. So I'm not trying to say that it's out in that sense, but where there is that detachment which takes place at that point. Where it's there, so you are there unbiased to whatever you're supposed to do. So not that it's he doesn't care for you or anything. When you are there, so it's all in the present that he was. Things around you should not be influencing you so much that you have to change your, if I use the word good self or whatever certain things which you have got, then you need to know whether those tendencies are the ones which are useful, which you should be continuing with, or tendencies which you have to move away from. So that we have to be able to recognize and discriminate. So it's not like I am aloof, because we're still in the society with people around us. So in that sense, but where you should be able to cut off and be what a part of wherever you are, not being able to get affected.
Good. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So I hope at least I could give you 2-3 bits in this whole so many hours, which would have been useful.
Thank you for listening to this episode. May the insights and experiences shared in this podcast be of support and inspiration on your own journey. See you in the next episode.